Hi, I'm Miss Emily from the Learn and Play Montessori school team, and today we're talking all about positive discipline. The reason children misbehave can vary broadly. It can stem from wanting more attention from their caregivers to not really being sure of the boundaries that are set in their environment, to wanting to assert their independence. They could also be running low on a basic need, such as being hungry or a little bit tired, or maybe even coming down with a little bit of an illness. They could also just be mimicking actions that they see. Perhaps they have just started preschool, or a new student has joined their school, and they are starting to mimic the behavior that they see from other students or other children. When using positive discipline, we aim to identify the misbehavior and we try to prevent it from happening further on. And we do this using a variety of techniques and proactive approaches. Now, proactive approaches are things that we do to prevent the behavior happening in the first place. We want to try and eradicate the situation from even arising, and so we try our utmost best to try to prevent a child from even wanting to misbehave. Some proactive approaches are things like setting the boundaries and letting our children know what we are expecting in the environment. These can be simple things such as, when we sit at the table, we like to draw. We keep our bottoms on the seat and our feet on the floor. When we're in the living room, we use the sofa to sit down and watch TV. If you'd like to jump, how about we put some pillows on the floor and we can jump all together? These are letting your children know what they can do and essentially what they cannot do. However, we're using positive language, and this is a proactive approach because we are already discussing what we are expecting from the environment before the child is let free to do things that we might not want them to do and essentially get in trouble. When we are setting these boundaries and these expectations within the environment, you really need to bear in mind your child's developmental expectations. Don't set the bar far too high for them if you know that they are not going to be able to attain that. For example, if you are painting with a small child and you are setting boundaries such as no painting on the other furniture or on the carpet, however, you have set up your painting activity just straight out on the carpet, well, of course that is going to fail. Your child is not developmentally ready to have the capability to refrain themselves from painting on the other things. Therefore, you also need to set up your environment. Make sure that it's a safe environment, but it still allows for independence. To do this, you could rather paint outside, or you may wish to paint in a high chair. You could also cover your whole carpet in some newspaper or a garbage bag and make sure that your child has some sort of fence around them to make sure that they're not going to paint on the rest of the furniture. This still allows your child to have the independence and the freedom to carry out their activity as they please. However, there are some boundaries set, and your child will understand these boundaries and expectations if you already lay them out before you start the activity. You also need to remember to use simple instructions, simple language, and as few words as possible. For example, if your child is constantly climbing onto the table or standing up on the chair, rather than using a whole bundle of words using negative language such as "get down from that chair," "it is rude to stand on the table," you could instead say things like "bottom on the seat," "feet down," or simply "down." By rephrasing this and using positive language and fewer words, your child's going to understand this a lot better. They're going to follow the instruction rather than hearing a whole bundle of do nots and we cannot do this. They will rather hear an instruction and follow that instead. It's really important to focus on the positive behavior and refrain from focusing on the negative behavior. For example, if your child is really sitting nicely at the table and is playing with their toys or doing some art, shine light on that. "Wow, I really like how you're sitting down at the table, that's excellent." Or, "I really like how gently you're playing with your toys. Do you think I could play with you too?" That way, your child acknowledges that they were doing something that pleases you and something that is expected of them in the environment, and they will continue to do so. However, you will sometimes get the time where your child will try to challenge you, and this is completely normal and it is all part of the developmental process. Sometimes we just need repetition and we have to go through the steps a few more times. As I have already mentioned, and as the name suggests, when using positive discipline, you want to use positive language. Refrain from blocking language such as can't and don't and we won't do this. Instead, we want to use positive language using redirectional sentences, telling your child what they can do. This maintains your child's self-esteem as well as their confidence. They don't feel knocked down thinking, oh, there's so many things that I cannot do here. Rather, you help them and give them the opportunity to think of other things that they can do. If you are doing an activity with your child and it gets a little bit out of hand, maybe it's even a sensory activity, such as playing with some rice. Suddenly, it all gets a little bit too much for your child. Perhaps they've been playing with the activity for too long, and they start to throw the rice about. Instead of getting angry, raising your voice, and saying negative words such as, don't do that, we do not throw the rice. Instead, try to redirect your child. You could say something such as, oh, I can see you're throwing the rice. We like to keep the rice inside the tub. Would you like to play with something else right now? We could change our activity. Would you like to paint instead? Or read a book? Neither? Okay, well, if you would like to play with the rice, we keep it inside the tub. This gives your child a choice and the independence. Ultimately, they feel like they are guiding their way and they are making their own choices. However, you have politely set some boundaries for them. You've told your child that you want to keep the rice inside the tub. However, if they feel like they cannot keep the rice inside, that's okay. We can do something else in the meantime. There may come a time when you are using your positive discipline, you're using your right redirection, and you're focusing on the positive actions that your child is doing. However, this all seems to be failing and your child is heading into a near meltdown. It's important at this time to remember to acknowledge their feelings. It's okay to feel angry sometimes. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to feel upset. Help your child to label their emotions. If we take our example back to the rice sensory play, if your child is still throwing the rice around and you have asked them to change their activity, however, they are refusing to do so, then you need to acknowledge their feelings. I see you're frustrated. I see you want to play with the rice. However, when we play with the rice, we keep it inside. If you throw all of the rice out, there will be none left to play with. So, would you like to play with the rice inside? Or would you like to read a book? Now, if your child is still not following through with their positive behavior and following through with your positive redirection, then you do need to remember to follow through with your consequences. Now, this is not a punishment, it's just a consequence. It teaches your child that if they do not stick to the boundaries or try to adhere to the expectations that you have set, then there will be a consequence. And this consequence could be as simple as just changing the activity. It's not a punishment, as it shouldn't make them feel any worse than they already do, leaving their beloved activity. However, they will understand that once they have calmed down or possibly adhered to the expectations of the environment, they can then go back to their activity of choice. So if your child continues to throw the rice outside of the tub and continues to throw a tantrum, you can gently take them with you, acknowledge their feelings again, and just let them know that to calm down, we're just going to read a story. And when you're feeling a little bit more relaxed and you can play with your rice inside the tub, then we will go back together and you can play. Now, great consequences are things just such as this. Redirectional activities that allow your child to calm down. Another idea is having something called a time in. And that is when you will bring your child with you to complete your activity. This could be something as simple as folding the washing or tidying the house a little bit. It gives you time to talk to your child through what just happened and talk about their emotions. Well, I hope you enjoyed learning about some positive discipline techniques. I hope that it helps you bring some Montessori inspiration into your child's life. From everyone at the Learn and Play Montessori School, bye-bye!